This is My Best Campaign. I'm Amanda Lee Smith. So my job sits right at this very dreamy overlap of brand and marketing and the outdoor, active, and wellness industries. And every year I make a series of predictions that sit right at that same junction. We publish it on our website over at mondaycreative.co, and you can take a peek if you want to see my predictions from the last 5 years. But right now, welcome to the 6th annual edition of The Crystal Baller. So this is based on dozens of inputs, podcasts that I love like Good Thinking, The Business of Fashion, and Articles of Interest, and go-to Substacks like Running Supply, The Sweat Lookbook, As Seen On, and other emails like Fit Insider and The Future Party. But more importantly, it's intel that I collect on the ground at trade shows like the Running Event and Switchback, and in dozens of conversations with marketing leaders right here on My Best Campaign and at Monday's signature event series, Tailgate Talks. That's where we get 12 CMOs together for a hike and dinner at the trailhead, and we host a roundtable conversation about what's working in brand and marketing right now. There's also all the coffees and Zoom calls that happen in between where I learn so much. And with all that in mind, here's what I think we'll be seeing in 2026. So the first one I'm calling cinematic social, and you're starting to hear that pop up a lot everywhere. In China, there's a huge trend towards these made-for-social mini-dramas, and it's changing how we do social advertising. You can call it Instagram premium or social world building, but in short, the best content we're seeing right now contains a whole world in 30 seconds, or even 5 seconds. I'm keeping an eye on brands like Jacquemus, Fern, Burberry, and Chanel. They're all leaders in this space. But inside our industry, Satisfy dropped the 2nd edition of their absolutely captivating series, I Think I Saw You on My Run Today, which is just a visual celebration of the human form and the cities in which we run. In episode 15 of My Best Campaign earlier this year, Shauna Olston, who was the former marketing director at Aritzia, but is now the director of marketing ops at Wealthsimple, flagged this shift. She really highlighted that we're kind of over the lo-fi, get ready with me, influencer video, and all those UGC tropes. Instead, as a brand, pull us in with a real story arc and then bring it to life with high production, curation, stars, styling, make it worth watching. Number 2, I'm calling this topical vitamins. So every new year seems to bring a new health trend, and for ages, we've thought about what we put inside our bodies. But in 2026, I think we'll be thinking about what we put on our bodies. As the fear of absorbing microplastics grows, we're seeing more awareness of what we put next to our skin. We're moving beyond just that vitamin E ointment that we had in our childhoods. And I think we're going to see the rise of things like skin electrolytes and even nutrient-rich clothing. Take Caperni's probiotic bacteria-infused clothing. Our client at Hoo-Ha just saw a category-breaking $20 million investment for their line of mineral undies. They use these natural fibers woven with antimicrobial zinc oxide. And the ingredient brand Celient, they've been doing this for a while, infusing clothing with infrared technology to increase circulation and cellular oxygenation. You know, in a time when longevity is driving a huge spend and our concern for the planet has sort of melded with our concern for our bodies, give consumers more ways to care for their health from the outside in. Number 3, vintage-inspired workwear. I don't think we're totally through with aloe yoga match sets in the Pilates studio, but there's an aesthetic shift happening. These days, my own mornings at the gym are starting to look a little bit more like my gym strip in the late 90s. Think oversized vintage cotton tees and sweatshirts or Adidas tearaways, Umbro shorts. It's straight out of PE class. This year, I think we're going to see technical apparel that doesn't look quite so technical. So vintage-inspired looks with performance properties, partly driven by a desire for comfort, but also just for self-expression. I love what Hiker Kind has done in the trail space. They've brought sort of fashion to trail, but kept it functional. And I'd love to see someone do that for the gym or the studio. I want a top that fits like the classic band tees that I steal from my boyfriend's closet, but that still wicks sweat. And in the meantime, I think you're just going to see more of us embracing secondhand workout wear, giving a good nod to the early 2000s, and repurposing street looks for the gym. By the way, speaking of the early 2000s, West Beach, which was one of my favorite 90s skate and snow brands, is about to relaunch, and I think it'd be great for them to take on this challenge. Okay, number 4 is track and field for the rest of us. So when I'm training, I love a track day, and a recent training session at a local high school made me wonder, why does track and field stop after college? There are so many 10-kilometer and half marathon and ultra races, but there are so few opportunities to recreational compete in a sprint or a 1,000-meter or a relay or even a good old-fashioned steeplechase. Just this past December, Diadora made a landmark announcement that they're offering $40,000 NIL sponsorship deals to the first high school boy to break a 4-minute mile and the first high school woman to break a 4-minute 35-second mile. The brand already announced their first landmark NIL deal back in April with Villanova University cross-country runner Marco Langoon. And I think it's a hint of what's coming. With that new spotlight on track events, I think we'll see interest from the broader public in short and middle distance races, relays, and maybe even the resurgence of hurdle training. All right, number 5, boredom gamified. On my 2026 wish list is more boredom, more time logged off and staring into space. And I think we're about to see the glorification of boredom as the path to creativity. It feels like creativity is under threat, and this might be the solve that we all lean to. Of course, there's always a paradox. The paradox is we'll probably see this gamified, adding a layer of competition to motivate tech-free time. Maybe the luxury of unplugging turned into events. And maybe we should call this trend actually performative boredom. Here's what I'm thinking. Office challenges that reward the least screen time in a week. Exclusive phone-free events that capitalize on the desirability of, if you know, you know. Maybe an alley cat race that you're not allowed to track on Strava, or friend groups that commit to doing the 12-hour walk and then get together at the end to share their reflections. I think we're going to see a lot more purchases of the brick phone blocker and bringing those into workplaces and creative spaces, more disposable film cameras, and more celebration of AI-free work created in airplane mode, my favorite way to work. Number 6, this one's a little out there. I'm talking about cortisol blockers. So this time last year, I saw a wave of social content claiming that the best way to manage weight is to reduce your cortisol levels, as though cortisol is something you could just manage through a diet, like cholesterol. In fact, cortisol is just a stress hormone, and it's best managed with more sleep, deep breathing, regular exercise, human connection, and time in nature, and sure, reducing sugar and caffeine and alcohol also helps. But going a step further, I recently heard an Instagram academic, should I put that in quotes? Instagram academic, talking about stress contagion, suggesting that cortisol can spread through the air like a virus. So I can't verify this, but it's easy to connect with the notion of secondhand stress. I can imagine a wave of products emerging that not only claim to reduce your cortisol levels, but also block the spread of cortisol from others. Whether it's a supplement, a garment, a meditation technique, I think this is the year someone monetizes cortisol resilience. Okay, number 7, flagship branded sporting events. In 2025, Bandit Running launched the Bandit Grand Prix, which was a meticulously executed and well-hyped one-day event that was conceptual just at every touch point. It was a level up from even some of the established events like the Tracksmith Twilight series and Rafa Prestige rides and even Red Bull Rampage, dare I say it. With Bandit as the new benchmark, I think 2026 is going to bring a wave of flagship brand-owned sporting events. Rather than merely sponsoring events with all those details that are out of their control, brands will want to curate every detail, every partnership, and every media moment to make something they can truly own. And of course, races are an obvious choice, but if you're not in the bike or run categories, what could a branded competition look like for you? I'm thinking about pickleball, breakdancing, parkour, tennis, maybe a mini high rock style challenge. I don't know, go wild. All right, bringing it home, number 8, the Substackification of branded emails. So we all know brand building is back. There was that pandemic era swing towards performance marketing, but in 2025, we saw the counter swing with a huge push towards community, events, and rediscovering your brand purpose. Meanwhile, Substack exploded in 2025, and those same brand builders are catching on. So in 2026, I think we're going to see brands dipping their toes into Substack, and I suspect we'll also see Substack's influence on our existing marketing channels. What does that look like? Probably a more human touch, more behind the scenes content from founders and creative directors, like a peek into their closets, their mood boards, their process, the chance to follow them through fashion week or vacation. When it's done really well, it could also include deeper takes on the state of the industry or their personal evolution. Someone who's doing this really well right now is Mara Hoffman. She has a really good personal Substack while she's kind of in rest mode and probably getting ready to launch whatever her next project is. This is all, to me, a bit reminiscent of the brand blogs that we all, or I used to love a decade ago, back when Yeti and Huckberry made a name for incredible storytelling, and Tory Burch had Tory Daily, where she shared behind the scenes of her life. Now it's sort of just evolved into seasonal lookbooks, and I'd love to see that side of storytelling come back. The key will be that the Substack influence is that it has an incredibly personal twist. Just because of the nature of Substack, it works best when it's owned by one individual. So people that are doing it really well, Tibby founder and creative director Imi Smilovic, she has the Creative Pragmatist, or Gia CEO Melanie Massarin's Substack called Nightshade. These are rising to the top as opposed to the more impersonal branded platforms like Well Said by Madewell or Rare Beauty Secrets. I would love to see a brand fully hand the Substack reins to an ambitious junior staffer, the way Everlane did long ago and gave the Instagram reins to their social team in their early days. All right, that is 2026 from my desk. I probably have another dozen or so predictions that didn't make the cut, so if you want to chat about them or explore how any of these could shape your brand in the year ahead, drop me a note. My email is amanda@mondaycreative.co. And keep checking in with the Monday blog. I often do a mid-year check-in and a trend check from South by Southwest. So that'll come out in March or April. Can't wait to report back. This episode of My Best Campaign was hosted by me, Amanda Lee Smith. It's produced by Emily Heibeck, and our sound engineer is Andrew Bagasbas. Our theme music is by Stephen Cowley.